Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by the folks who bring you the boat show. One of the folks who bring you the boat show every year. March 5th through the 8th, Madisonville Marine will have 30 boats at the Knoxville Convention Center at the boat show. 30 boats from one dealer right there for you to see here in Knoxville. Plenty of boats on display. They got great prices, factory rebates, and deals that are already underway at Madisonville Marine. Up to $1,500 back in factory rebates on Skeeter boats, up to $3,000 on G3, or vice versa, one or the other. Plenty of factory rebates depending on the make and model of boat you buy from Madisonville Marine. All right, here's someone who bought a boat from Madisonville Marine. Freelance contributor to the Knoxville News Sentinel, Mr. Bob Hodge. Good to have you here.
Good morning.
And right down there, Chuck Cavaleris from Southern Golf Central.
Southern Golf Central.
Southern Golf Central. Chuck, you're always expanding. Now you're being read in what? How many states?
Chuck, you are expanding.
Yeah, I am expanding.
Sorry about that.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate that.
We'll leave it. All right, here we go. UT coach Butch Jones introduced Mike DeBoard, the new offensive coordinator, late this week, and a couple of things stood out. Let's go ahead and pop this up here. Jones talked a lot about fit, that his he feels his offense is doing well. You've got a team that's starting to come together. No need to change what they're doing. Instead, find someone who can come in and just kind of fall right into place. And he thinks he's got that in Mike DeBoard. DeBoard was obviously fired up to be back. I think he tried to show a lot of energy to let people know he's fired up about it. DeBoard is up on the spread, says he's been talking to people about the spread, doing all kinds of research on the spread. And Butch Jones said, at the meantime, I don't like calling it a spread. It's a pro-style offense. Spread makes you think finesse. So there was a little what's in a name kind of a thought there. And then there was talk about more attitude runs. Let's start 1, 2, 3 very quickly through this. Mike Strange, you were over there. Your thoughts on the energy displayed by Mike DeBoard?
They didn't show this, I don't think, on the camera at the press conference that went out. The feed went out there. Do you remember when Jack Palance won a supporting actor? He did the one. Mike DeBoard did one-handed push-ups yesterday. So he said his batteries are fully charged. Yeah. He said he's gotten back on that bicycle and is pedaling furiously. Yeah, he. And I don't think it was fake or anything. I think, here's a guy who's glad to be back and wanted to make the case that that he's full of energy and up to the task, and no reason to think he isn't.
To the point that Jones doesn't like the term spread, pro style versus spread, whatever. I mean, technically they are running spread stuff in the pros now, so I guess you could call it pro style. DeBoard says it's still going to be a single back spread offense. Any thoughts? I mean, that was one that took off on Twitter, that they can't even agree what the offense is. Personally, I look at it, what's in a name? It's just verbiage in my eyes. Your thoughts?
I think you just nailed it. I think that you've got a pro-style offense now that looks very much like the college pure spread stuff. And so you take a little bit from one, you take a bit of another. What difference does it matter? I mean, make what they call it, because I think that when you've got a single back, you've got 3 wide and a tight end, or you've got 4 wide and a single back, you see that in the NFL. It is a pro style. As a matter of fact, you probably see more of that in the NFL now, 3 wide receivers, tight end, single back, than you do anything else. Fullbacks are extinct in the NFL.
Seattle Seahawks it's right down to the zone read.
So why in the world somebody's concerned about what they're calling it, I don't understand. And one thing about his enthusiasm, and we talked off the air about how people were upset. Oh, he was so glad to be back. That's a little worrisome. No, he was darned if you do, darned if you don't, is that. If he'd came out and been quiet and somber, look at that, he's an old man. Oh, he's upbeat. Well, he's just glad to be back in coaching. So that was going to work against him either way.
That's a good point. All right, one back offense, Chuck. Yet they talked about attitude runs. I think a lot of people wanted to hear, they know what he did at Michigan. It was a power run game. Are we going to bring a fullback back in here? Yeah. Is this going to be? And the reaction is kind of no. It's the same old what you've seen. So where do you think this attitude run comes from?
The power run thing comes from his background really as an offensive line coach. And that's one of the things I think you got to really like. And in the 3 years he was out, I mean, he said he's still going to football practice at Michigan. I mean, and I liked what Butch Jones said. Butch Jones said, hey, when this guy was coaching, when he was an offensive coordinator, his teams won 82% of their games, a national championship.
52-11.
52-11. He's coached tight ends in the NFL for the Bears. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, let this thing play out before you start passing judgment on anything.
Any
Correct.
thoughts?
I mean, that's the big, what Chuck said is the big thing. You got to let it play out. And I think he can have attitude runs. You don't have to have a fullback. I mean, you bring in a double tight end package, one of them goes in motion and then runs into the hole. It's the
He's
same thing
basically
as
a
having a
fullback.
fullback,
Yeah.
yes.
Does any Tennessee fan object or feel bad about attitude runs? Looks like they would embrace that.
Well, I think they are. I think the question is, how can you have an attitude run without a true fullback? I think Bob just explained. You also saw. Let's put it this way: did Jalen Hurd have a couple of attitude runs in the
No.
Tax Layer Bowl? Sure did.
Yes.
I
He
mean,
sure
when
did, yeah.
an attitude run can be running the hell over somebody. So I mean, I think that could be a little bit of what they're talking about there. But in terms of press conferences, typically people don't like a hire. Then you have a press conference. Most of the middle ground people kind of come over to his side. Those people who are opposed just dig into their trenches. Is that kind of what we saw this week?
I think so. I mean, I don't think that there's, and people talk about nowadays the cliched winning the press
Yeah.
conference. Me personally, I think he won the press conference, but it wasn't a big win.
Okay.
He squeaked it out.
All right, everybody agree with that?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I thought it was impressive, but I think you're also looking at the way Tennessee is recruiting. I want to find out and see how these guys coach in practice too, or how he coach in practice. And I also think it's interesting that there was some talk of some friction between Butch Jones and the previous offensive coordinator about what they were going to be doing in some of those short yardage situations. So there's some things going on there that I think it's going to be interesting to watch.
It'll certainly be interesting to see what they wind up doing. All right, so much for the on-the-field talk. There was some off-the-field stuff. We got plenty more to come up in this show. A lot of topics to cover, but next, off-field issues. 3 former Vols, all tied in one way or another to sexual assault cases. New story today in the Tennessean that's out there online regarding another sexual assault charge from earlier in the year that didn't become public. We'll discuss this. Is it a show of a discipline problem on the team? Could it slow down Tennessee's momentum as a program? Come on back on the Sports Source.